I hope I live up to the expectations. I would like to get started. I want to tell you a little story about riding with angels. And it's something that I like to do at least once a year. And actually, I do it numerous times during the year with other people and with myself. We do this crazy little bike ride in the third week of May, starting in some place in the Northeast. We've started in Boston, Mass. the last 2 years. 3 years ago, we started 2 rides, one from South Portland, Maine, and one from Bennington, Vermont. And we met just down the road in Nashua at the end of the day to get together as a whole group. And we do this under the guise of the National EMS Memorial Bike Ride. And this bike ride is about getting together, a week-long ride, 500 miles. We do that over 7 days, averaging 60 to 70 miles a day, to honor and remember the people in our profession who have died in the line of duty. This past year, we rode for 31 people. When I started this ride 7 years ago, we rode for 93. So we have varying numbers, but there's always someone to ride for. And we like to refer to ourselves as the Muddy Angels. And this is our logo. If you go to the website, that's what comes up. And why do we call ourselves the Muddy Angels? Well, sometimes we get dirty out there on the bikes. It rains. It hasn't snowed yet. There's been a little sleet. Last year I was dodging tornadoes through Kentucky and Virginia. And when we get off, nice white bike socks are black. And this also came about from talking amongst each other that first year of the bike ride. The cartoon that I started at the beginning was created by Mr. Steve Berry, who was a cartoonist and does some writing for some of the EMS magazines. And he thought, and listening to some of the conversations going on in the workplace that we work in, which is along the side of the road, some dirty houses, at the fire scene alongside the firefighters, that we get kind of on the dirty side. So the Muddy Angels is what we came up with and how we refer to ourselves, and that's what we do. So I got involved with this, as I said, 7 years ago. 7 years ago, my friend and I, Mr. Martin, decided we would do this bike ride, but it took us 2 years talking about doing this bike ride. We read about it in the trade journals and said, this looks like a lot of fun. And we were a couple of guys, and still are, who like to do things that might be a little bit fun, a little bit dangerous on occasion, get the adrenaline running a little bit. And if it's, something that sounds crazy, we're usually there. So we started, we finally, after 2 years of talking about it and talking ourselves out of it, we've just said, this year we sign up, we do it, we signed up, and then we started letting the mind play games on us. Are we going to be able to ride 500 miles? Living in the Northeast, we don't have the opportunity to ride before the bike ride in May to get a lot of training miles in. And then we got thinking, we're going to go to New York City, and we're going to meet with all those New York paramedics and firefighters. Those are the big guys. We're from Little New Hampshire. Are we going to keep up with those guys? They're probably world-class athletes. Well, let me tell you, when we got there, they were shaped just like me. We didn't worry about a thing. And by the end of that first day, we had bonded, and we were all friends, and we were swapping stories about work, things we'd seen. We were swapping stories about kids and grandchildren. That's how it got to be. What I have found on this ride, you meet people. The first year I rode, there was 17 of us. Last year at the end of the ride, there were 130 of us. You get to know the people that you ride with. You become family. You listen to their stories of what brought them out for the ride. And they listen to yours, and it's an underlying theme that they're there for someone they worked with, knew in another town, or just it's the right thing to do. So some of the reasons why we ride to raise awareness. I have a room full of people here, and if I say, asked any of you how dangerous do you think the EMS profession is, I would probably get 2 or 3 answers, and hopefully one would be, maybe it's dangerous. It is dangerous. We go into situations where there could be a domestic dispute going on, and we're right behind the police officer when we go in, so we got that nice barricade in front of us, and I've learned to run faster than the police officers on the way out, which is served good purpose on a couple of occasions. We work on the side of the road where traffic goes buzzing by. They don't like to give us much room. We find that other drivers on the road create quite a bit of problems for us, and most of the incidences that we run into are usually because of other drivers making a wrong lane change, being inattentive, and causing some sort of accident. This is from 2 weeks ago in Florida, where a tractor trailer made a lane change as the ambulance was trying to get to the hospital. There was a loss of life in this from one of the EMS providers. We ride to remember and honor. The gentleman in this picture right here is from Washington Heights, D.C. We rode into Washington Heights Station 5 years ago, met this young man, his family. His brother worked for D.C. He worked at Capitol Heights. He was killed in an automobile accident on his way home from a training session that he had been in, and it really was hard on the family. And that's one of the things that we deal with a lot out there, is meeting with the families, going through different ceremonies and talking to the families and letting them know that there are people here who still remember them. We advocate for national warehousing and tracking of loss of life, close calls. There is nothing at the national level that tracks that. So from year to year, we really don't know how many people have been lost. We advocate for safety standards. We look for loss of duty death benefits. There are 24 states within the United States still that don't have any loss of duty death benefits, life for EMS providers. And this is something that we work on individually in our states at the local level, and we also work on this at the national level. And we've created this little thing called the Muddy Angel Fund, that when we raise our money every year, we donate it to the Muddy Angel Fund. We've become a 501c3, thank you, I'm glad someone's keeping me straight, nonprofit organization. And with this fund, our hope and plan and goal is to be able to help families who don't have the financial backing to get through the first few weeks after they've lost the main breadwinner, the person who brings home the paycheck, make sure there's food on the table for the family, for the children, help with the bills that could be coming in until other assistance can be brought into it. We are all out there, and I've alluded to this a little bit, we're all riding for a reason. And the reason that I ride is, for me, it's the right thing. When I first got into it with my friend, we just thought, it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to be out there riding because people died and we want to remember them. By the end of the first day, like I said, we realized it was much more than that. And we're all riding for a reason. We ride for these people every year that we go out for. We put placards up at every rest stop we go to, at every ceremony we go to. We have a reading of the names of the people that we're riding for. Sometimes we have a little bell that we ring with us for the reading of each name. We meet with the families, we talk to them, we let them know that we care. We've had people come from around the country. We've had from Austin County, Texas. The Austin County EMS bike team came up in 2007 was the first year they showed up. They've been with us ever since. They were riding for Mr. Eric Hansen, who lost his life on a ride back from the hospital after he had dropped off a patient. And when the tone goes out that there's an ambulance involved, you can just imagine, with loss of life or injuries, you can just imagine the gut-wrenching that's going through the rest of the EMS community when they hear that. And everybody from a wide radius will come to help. The person Steve, who did the cartoon, came and rode for his partner that he worked with for many years. She suffered a back injury on the job. She suffered for 5 years before she finally succumbed to that. His first year was my first year. We've become close friends. We ride together every year now. And he came to remember her. South Carolina came up one year. They had a fellow co-worker that they lost, and the fire department in New York, their paramedics were out there every year remembering their people that they lost in 9/11. We've had people from around the world come ride with us. We've had people from Ireland come over and ride with us. We've had people from Canada come down and ride with us numerous times. And it's great to see and hear their stories and find out that they're really no different from what our stories are here the faces change. We stop at different rescue areas, our rescue squads along the way. Like I said, meet with the families, talk with them, do a ceremony. There was a year we went through, several years ago, we went through Maryland. And 2 weeks prior to our bike ride, there was a loss of life at that rescue squad. The president of the organization called them up at the time and said, we can come through. We're riding down that way. We can stop. We can meet with your crew. We can talk with them. Let them know they're not alone. And the chief came back. No, it's really kind of soon. It's too raw. Why don't you guys wait a year and we'll rethink it again. Well, the day of the ride that we were going through their area, the chief called up and said, is that office still open? Can you come out and see our people? Maybe it'll help a little bit. So we made the ride out. Stopped, set up our posters, did a quick ceremony, met with the crews, and continued on. At the next rest stop 10 miles down the road, the president of the organization came out and said, just got a call from the chief. He wants to thank each and every one of you for stopping in. That crew had finally started to sit down, talk amongst themselves, how they felt, what happened, and we're thankful that we stopped in. We ride for our own members. In the past year, we've lost 2 of our riders, line of duty. And that takes a personal toll on all of us. We started wearing dog tags several years ago, about 5 years ago. Each rider gets presented with a set of dog tags at the beginning. We ride the length of the route. At the end of the route, we'll take our dog tag, write a letter to the family that we're riding for, include the dog tag, and mail it off to them unless you're fortunate enough to meet them, the family along the route. I've been fortunate to meet family along the route 3 times. Yes, 3. That is one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. The first time I did that was in Buchanan, Virginia, and I met with a 70-year-old lady I was riding for her son, Johnny Carson Jr., no relation to Johnny, and presented her with with her dog tag, told her how sorry I was for the loss, and that there were people out there who were remembering him, remembering what he did for the community, and we sat there and cried in each other's arms for about 10 minutes before somebody actually helped me out of the building so I could cry some more. So it's a very emotional time for our riders. This one on the left was for a friend of mine that I rode for who passed away last year. And this is just another young man presenting his dog tag that he rode for that gentleman's son over the past year. Some of us like to keep our dog tags with us all the time. So I ride with my frog. And the frog is another whole story upon itself. But he carries the dog tags. He carries the dog tags with honor. They're with us all the time, and they make some surprise appearances also. We meet people from Ireland that we've discussed. When we first started this bike ride, it was from New York City to Roanoke, Virginia. In Roanoke, Virginia at that time, they were doing a National EMS Memorial Service. There is an organization for the National EMS Memorial. And at that time, it was on Memorial Day weekend in May. So we'd take our bike ride the 3rd week of May to our end point. And at that point, we would stop and stay at the Hotel Roanoke, gather, and go to the memorial service the day after we arrived. 3 years ago, they have moved that EMS Memorial to Colorado Springs. So we have changed our end point to Washington, D.C., which has moved our beginning point out of the Northeast, like I said. And we do our own ceremonial thingy at the end. Whoa, boy. There are some interesting things that come up along the ride. You know, I take my frog. I talk to my frog a lot. I also talk to my people a lot. I have this 3 years ago when we rode out of Bennington, Vermont. We came out of Bennington. We were heading for Nashua, New Hampshire. And in between, there's just 1 or 2 big hills that we have to go over. And the first hill we have to go over is called Hogback Mountain in Vermont. I don't know if anyone is familiar with that, but when you leave from Bennington to the summit of Hogback, it's a 25-mile uphill climb. And I was riding for a person from New Hampshire, Chief Schultz, out of Wilton, New Hampshire, who had passed away. And I was also keeping in my mind a person from Bennington that they had lost with me on that also. On the ride up, I got tired for some reason. I don't know why, because it's all uphill. But I was almost to the summit. I could see the top, I could see the parking area, I could see my other riders who always get in ahead of me. I just make sure everybody else gets in. That's why I'm always at the back. And my legs were really tired, and I started talking to my frog. Okay, frog, we need to get up there. And I started talking to the two people I was supporting, saying, I don't think I'm going to make this. I don't want to get off and walk. I need a little help. At that point, there was a strong breeze that came up. And that breeze was strong enough to push me up the rest of that hill. I know that's hard to believe, but that's the honest to God's truth. Last year on my ride, I decided I wanted to try the Kentucky route. During the week of the bike ride, that third week of May, we run two routes. One's out of the Northeast. There's a second one that comes out of Kentucky, and we meet outside of Washington, D.C., and ride through the city together. I decided I needed to do something different, so I'll go to Kentucky and ride. That was a smart choice. I was the only rider for the first 4 days till two other people came out and joined me. It was like a crowd. But my first day out, my first stop, we were having a little talk, chatting with the crew that was there, having a little snack. Noticed this young man walk outside, and I'm talking to the chief of the organization. I said, where'd you go? And he came back. He had a tough day yesterday. He's only been an EMT for a month. He had a pediatric code. He lost a child. I said, oh, well, I've been there. I went outside, leaned up against the ambulance. He's smoking a cigarette. And all I said was, tough day. And he just opened up and started talking. Shouldn't have happened. I have a child that age at home. I don't know what to do. And we talked for half an hour just back and forth before people realized we weren't inside where everybody else was and started filtering out. And I related some of my experiences of people that I have lost and the pediatric population also. And reinforced that he wasn't alone, and as his co-workers and friends came out, he realized he had a support group there. We left. I had so much fun in Kentucky. I went back again this year. I had 7 riders with me. I was excited, ecstatic. Stopped at that first stop of the day, first day. Walked in, saw the chief, talked to him and said, where's the young guy I talked to last year? Is he still here? Yes, but he's at a different station today. He couldn't make it. And I said, how's he doing? He's doing great. Thank you for talking to him last year. He opened up to everybody, and he worked his problems out, and he's one of the best people we've got now. That's why I ride. I'm going to leave you with this. This is our group. This is day 7 of that 7-day ride. This is their last day of riding. They're heading into Washington, D.C. 7 o'clock in the morning, we get to go through the battlefields of Gettysburg by ourselves. There's no guide, there's no nothing. All you hear is the shifting of the gears on the bicycles, the chain clinking back and forth, the swishing of the wheels on the road, and everybody's pretty quiet. But I want you to notice the riders. They're still smiling, and they know they have a 100-mile day in front of them, but they know why they're there. They're there for the people that we've lost, their friends, their brothers, their family. And like me, when I see them at our meeting point, they're ready to get on the bike and do another 500 miles to finish the ride again. Thank you.